What were you doing 30 years ago? 30 years ago, right now, I would have been preparing to go on air with This Morning in Liverpool with Judy. What would you'd be in school, wouldn't you, 30 years ago?
Yes,
yeah,
I'm
yes,
sure. I was very small.
You were very small, very small. Think about yourself. 30 years, maybe possibly you weren't even born. But after nearly 30 years on Ramsay Street, it looks like time is nearly up for Toadie on Neighbours.
Well, he survived 5 marriages, driving off a cliff, and even the soap's cancellation. But after it was rebooted last year, a trip to the Australian outback could be the end for Jared Rebecca. Let's take a look. Dramatic. Well, Ryan Moloney's been Toadie since 1995. He joins us now. Good morning to you.
What's here?
G'day,
It's
how
great
are you?
to have you. We're good, thanks. Thanks for coming in to see us.
Thank
You're
you for
here
having
in the
me.
UK. I mean, that looks like quite a moment. I'm slightly worried about the fact that this is called Death in the Outback,
Yeah.
which seems to suggest that your
Very Wolf Creekish.
Your
Yes.
departure could be a terminal one.
Yeah, I know. Good,
Yeah.
huh?
I know. So
It's
how
a
was
soap,
it?
so, you know, we've got to do these things, right?
How are you feeling, the fact that kind of that's it? Because it's been such a huge part of your life for all these years.
I'm pretty excited, and I'm excited about, you know, the next kind of adventures. I've had a great time on Neighbours, and, you know, I've learnt a lot, and, you know, there's a lot of skills that I've got now. So I'm very much kind of looking forward to, you know, what else is going to happen.
What's it meant to you being Toadie? You know, it's been such a huge part for you.
Well, it's been my life, really. You know, I started when I was 15, so you know, I've grown up on the show, and you know, me personally, I've gotten married, had kids, built farms, learnt lots of other bits and pieces. So it's very much, you know, kind of my life. I've spent more time on Neighbours than what I have off.
Wow.
Well, I was doing all these sums and thinking it's a very new, in terms of acting as a profession, it's a very new place to be, actually. If you think about it, I mean, by and large, actors, they play a part in a play or a film or a TV series. Maybe they get a little bit typecast for a few years, but, you know, it's over and they move on. But 30 years as one person, your personality as the real you must start to intermingle with the person that you have to be when you go on set.
Yeah, kind of. I mean...
Schizophrenic, you know?
I mean, to be honest, schizophrenic, yes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's kind of where we take Toadie in the end, yeah. But I think it's actually more to the point that you spend so much time actually honing skills. If you pay attention, you can get really good and really nuanced at things. So spending, you know, day in, day out actually working on your craft, hence why I say, you know, you learn a lot of skills. And even to the point of, like, being able to direct. I've just kind of made the transition into directing into their program there, and instead of them kind of just giving me like the little taster of what, you know, they give normal, you know, the normal kind of directing traineeships, they just went, well, no, have an episode that's yours because you already know what you're doing.
Well, I was going to say, you must have ownership over the character. I mean, over the years, you must have had scripts land on your mat, you know, to learn, and thought, no, Toadie wouldn't do that. I know him, and I know he wouldn't respond that way. So have you had that kind of input?
Yeah, you do have that level of input, and you can write stories with the writers. In fact, very early on in my career, I realised that when people got fired, it was because, like, a lot of the times the response was, oh, we just don't know what's, you know, we can't say anything more for your character. Right. So when it came up to contract time for me, like about 3 or 4 months out, I'd actually go into the story department with a whole bunch of stories. And I'm just going to go, there you go, I didn't care if I got them or not.
Is that why you've got such good storylines then?
Well,
because you've come up with some of the ideas for it. Is it sad, though? I mean, that, you know, you're kind of saying goodbye to an old friend then, aren't you? How does that feel, the fact that he's going to be no more?
Look, I actually wanted to leave before the show got cancelled, but I thought it was going to finish up. So I was like, well, I want to stick around because that's a piece of history, you know, just to be on a show for that long, but have the show itself be running for that long. So I wanted to be there for that. And then I went on and, you know, started doing, you know, civil construction and building farms and all this kind of jazz. And then they knocked on the door and said, hey, we're coming back. So well, that's a piece of history again, so we got to jump on board. So I'm pretty excited, to be honest.
Do you have to like the character that you're basically playing for all that time? I mean, I'm not going to name him, but I interviewed a soap star a couple of years after he had left a well-known production.
Sounds intriguing. I know.
And we talked about the character. He said how much he liked him, and then we went off air. He said, actually, Richard, I loathed him. I loathed him. Okay.
Okay.
Well, what about Toadie? Did you like him?
Well, after so long, like the characters have got to transition from what they start with. Obviously, you know, as a normal human being, everyone changes. So, you know, so that kind of transition, yes, you got to keep those core aspects of the character there. But I think probably a lot of the time you need to be aware that your ego is not getting in the way of your performance and kind of what you think about storylines or what you think about characters. In fact, it's my job to actually be given a script and then go, in what world does this actually work, and make it real. So that's, you know, the more I do my job, then fantastic.
And what about the fans? I mean, when people recognise you, they recognise you not as you, the actor, obviously. They recognise you as Toadie. And I guess they must expect you to behave like Toadie when they ask for a selfie or when they talk to you.
I suppose they used to. Now, I think, you know, I think people are very much well aware that, you know, you're not the character.
We're not stupid.
Yeah. So, you know, if that's kind of what they like, you know, I don't kind of act like Toadie or anything like that. But I'm very nice and polite and, you know, hopefully, you know, a joy to be around.
And what if, I mean, you've just arrived here at the UK. What kind of reaction do you get here? Because obviously people have known and loved Neighbours for so long now. It's one of those things that, you know, so many people have watched at some point, whether they watched it religiously for many years to begin with. But, you know, there's a huge fan base out there, isn't there?
There is, but the first time coming here, like many years ago, and it's happened ever since, is nobody notices me until, like, you put it into the correct context. So as soon as, like, you turn up to an event where it's like, you know, Neighbours kind of, it's like, But outside of that, it's
on the tube or walking down Regent Street or whatever.
It's really quite nice.
And listen, you're getting ready for this show, Toad on the Road, that's going to be across the country, isn't it? What can people expect then if they go and see this?
Right. Well, you know, it's going to be talking about my life on Neighbours, but it's not just about Neighbours and the character. It's kind of taking you behind the scenes of how we make stuff, and I'm trying to bring actual television to the theatre. You know, I've got recordings of actually behind the scenes, like audio recordings, and we're kind of mixing everything together.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's actually going to be pretty cool. I've really enjoyed writing it.
So basically how it's done. This is how we do it.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. And so there's that aspect to it, but it's also a lot of people, when you do press for Neighbours, you tend to always be trying to protect the show.
Of course,
so, you know, you put on your airs and graces and all that kind of stuff.
You can say what you like now, is that what you're saying?
What am I going to do, fire me? Jesus.
So are any of your cast members slightly worried about the fact that you're going to be, you know, live and unleashed across the UK talking about what actually happened?
Well, they might be, as soon as they find out what I'm going to talk about.
Well, when all that's done and dusted and that's behind you, at some point you're going to have to say goodbye to Toadie for good and all.
Yes.
And launch yourself out into the world without him. What are you going to be? What are you going to do?
I'm really actually just leaving the slate open for
good for you.
Whatever.
Right.
I'm not particularly attached to continuing on. You know, I've been acting for, you know, over 30 years now. If that continues, then fantastic. Directing, that has really got my synapses firing again. Yeah. So, you know, hopefully that happens. But I'm actually really quite happy, you know, building farm fences and, you know, playing with animals and spending time with the kids. So if I never get employed and I do that again, then happy days.
Okay.
Good.
That's a good place to be.
Good for you. Ryan, thank you so much. Best of luck with the shows. It's been great to see you this morning.
Good luck with the tour. Nice to talk to you. No, thank you. Really interesting.
I'll see you at the show, right?
Yes,
of course. Front row, mate. Front row.
Get those tickets.